Look at the language first-time cruisers use to describe their trips. They don't talk about logistics. They use phrases like "best week of my life" and "felt completely free." Yet mainstream cruise analysis almost entirely ignores this emotional reality. The literature is obsessively focused on functional optimization, how to navigate buffet lines, maximize the financial return on a drink package, or execute an efficient port disembarkation. This creates a massive analytical vacuum. Nobody is looking at how these ships deliberately engineer euphoric, uninhibited emotional experiences. Consider a very specific demographic, couples celebrating a milestone, where at least one partner is a first-time cruiser, seeking a profound psychological release from the protracted constraints of domestic or professional life. To understand how this release happens, we are going to deconstruct the spatial and temporal design of the Carnival Freedom. For this highly stressed demographic, the objective is never maximizing financial value. The strict goal is hedonistic maximization. The process begins with maritime liminality. This describes the unique state of a ship operating in international waters, existing entirely outside the standard physical, legal, and social boundaries of mundane terrestrial life. Stepping aboard creates an immediate, visceral psychological severance from land-based responsibilities. This psychological severance is reinforced by the ship's interior. The Carnival Freedom utilizes a bold, Gilded Age meets Vegas design. You are surrounded by oversized rose-patterned carpets, snakeskin-lined banquettes, and speakeasy-style red lighting dominating the central spaces. This visual cacophony serves a vital function. By bordering on the garish, the architecture actively strips away the intimidation factor and strict decorum associated with premium luxury travel. The environment explicitly rejects subtlety. Combine this with the demographic reality of a 4 to 5 day itinerary. Shorter sailings automatically consolidate a younger, highly energetic crowd, highly motivated to maximize their abbreviated time off from work. The synthesis of this unpretentious physical design and a dense, party-oriented crowd serves as a behavioral primer. It grants the guests explicit permission to engage in loud, celebratory, and completely uninhibited behavior. Mainstream cruise planning advice typically directs passengers to meticulously study the daily schedule and secure seats for the massive, headlining stage productions. For the party-seeking persona, this approach fails. Sitting quietly in the dark of the massive Victoriana Theatre is a strictly passive experience. Passive observation restricts physical and emotional release. This diagram illustrates the analytical alternative. While the main theater remains cold and inactive, the true drivers of connection are social gravity wells scattered across the midship promenade deck. The absolute nucleus of this evening energy is the Alchemy Bar. Positioned directly in the flow of the highest evening foot traffic, it acts as the optimal home base for an adult couple. The bar operates as a masterclass in social architecture. It emphatically eschews printed menus and blenders. Instead, guests must verbally describe their preferred spirits and current moods to highly performative mixologists who craft custom cocktails before their eyes. This interactive, theatrical process acts as a powerful social lubricant. Couples seated at the bar inevitably begin discussing their custom drinks with their neighbors, breaking down the standard barriers that exist between strangers. The qualitative data is clear. Peak emotional payoffs are never scheduled in a daily planner. They are organically generated by active, physical participation in these high-traffic social gravity wells. For large-scale kinetic release, the absolute apex of the itinerary is the 80s Rock and Glow Lido Duck Party. This event leverages specific environmental variables. The darkness of the open ocean surrounds the ship, while massive crowd density and the distribution of neon glow accessories provide visual anonymity for the guests. These variables are meticulously engineered to trigger collective effervescence. This is a sociological concept describing the shared, highly charged emotional state of a crowd. When collective effervescence takes hold, it practically forces introverted or highly stressed individuals to drop their guard, succumb to the rhythm of the collective, and join the massive group dances. It becomes virtually impossible to feel self-conscious. This energy extends deep into the night, resulting in a 2 a.m. sociological convergence at the 24-hour Pizza Pirate. Because it is the final dining option available, it naturally catches the remaining energetic passengers after the nightclub shutters. It functions as a vital cultural touchstone where guests share the gritty, comedic camaraderie of outlasting the rest of the ship's population. Total inhibition loss relies on spatial engineering. You navigate a highly structured environment that has been carefully designed to facilitate entirely unstructured joy. In the latter half of 2025 and throughout 2026, the daytime climax of these itineraries shifts to the integration of Celebration Key, Carnival's new $600 million private destination in the Bahamas. Here, travelers often fall into the Pearl Cove fallacy. Traditional luxury travel advice instinctively directs an anniversary couple to book the premium, extra-fee, adults-only beach club known as Pearl Cove. This table breaks down the error. Pearl Cove is meticulously designed for serene, hushed isolation and requires an extra fee. Contrast this directly with Calypso Lagoon, which is included in the fare and engineered as a high-energy, DJ-driven aquatic block party. For the first-timer looking to let loose, paying for Pearl Cove is a massive strategic error. It actively isolates the couple behind a paywall of tranquility when what they actually desire is joyful chaos. The mathematical optimum for this persona is the Calypso Lagoon strategy. The architectural engine of this portal is the long-neck swim-up bar. With 166 submerged seats positioned adjacent to a dedicated DJ island, it serves as a massive, inescapable aquatic block party. Achieving daytime liminality means you have to locate the ship's most lively passengers. You must segregate yourself by demographic energy rather than segregating yourself by premium pricing. Sustaining high-level partying, dancing, and drinking over a consecutive 5-day period presents a severe risk of physical burnout. This line graph represents the day-by-day energy topography of the trip. To extract maximum value, you have to treat the itinerary as a thermodynamic system that requires strict pacing. Notice the sharp upward spike on day 1. Day 1 begins with the sail away party, an immediate, high-sensory block party that finalizes the psychological severance from land. Then, the kinetic output advances to its absolute highest daytime peak on day 2 at Celebration Key's Calypso Lagoon. This aquatic participation demands immense physical energy in the Caribbean sun. Because of this, the kinetic output line must abruptly plummet mid-afternoon, hitting a low valley labeled for mandatory rehydration and recovery. You must abandon the midday heat to aggressively hydrate and rest in your cabin or on the shaded adults-only decks before the evening demands begin. Misjudging when the ship's energy naturally peaks and valleys leads to early burnout, causing you to miss the highest yield late-night opportunities. This brings us to the massive port fatigue trap on day 3. Docking in Nassau, you face an overwhelming scale of tourist congestion. Navigating the sheer volume of tourists packed into the local straw markets and downtown bars rapidly drains your physical and social reserves. The contrarian strategy here is the early retreat. The couple intentionally returns to the Carnival Freedom by 1 p.m., while 3,000 other passengers are ashore sweating in town. The ship becomes blissfully empty. This allows you to utilize the adults-only Serenity deck as a highly strategic, almost medicinal recovery tool. You claim the best empty hammocks and private hot tubs to actively bank stamina. This strategic rest sets up Day 4's aesthetic reset at Half Moon Cay. You utilize this pristine natural environment and its white sands to recover fully from the highly manufactured, DJ-driven days prior. Experiential maximization demands treating relaxation not as the ultimate goal of the vacation, but as a rigorously scheduled mechanism to fuel future kinetic output. This strict pacing guarantees you have the stamina for Day 5, the Sacred Sea Day. The ship is completely isolated from land, and the collective euphoria of the passengers hits a desperate peak as they resist the end of the vacation. We return to the core question. What actually separates a couple who returns saying, "It was really nice," from one who returns saying, "That was the greatest trip of our lives"? The difference is never dictated by how much money was spent on specialty steakhouses, premium VIP beach passes, or polished theater seating. Profound transformation only occurs through a conscious, deliberate willingness to surrender to the specific, chaotic energy of the short itinerary demographic. Hedonistic release is not a spontaneous accident. It is the absolute, predictable reward for those who master the spatial and temporal engineering of Carnival Freedom.